Consider the equation 2 divided by x minus 3 plus 1 divided by x equals x minus 1 divided by x minus 3. And what we're looking for is how many solutions does this equation have, and do we have any extraneous solutions? So I'm going to flip over to my paper to work this out, and the first part is that we have to find a common denominator. So when we take a look at this problem here, ask yourselves, when you're finding the common denominator, do we have anything the same? Well, we have an x minus 3. That's going to be, since it's here and here, since it's in two of the fractions, that's part of the common denominator. And then whatever is not the same, which is x. And in fact here I'm just going to write it a little bit differently. But what's going to happen is we're going to multiply every term in that pink equation by x times x minus 3. So I just wrote the x out in front of that. So it's going to be x times x minus 3 times 2 over x minus 3 plus x times x minus 3 multiplied by 1 divided by x. And we have to do all of the terms in this. So it's going to be x times x minus 3. And then it's multiplied by x minus 1 divided by x minus 3. Now the reason we do that is because we can cancel out now. So if I take a look at this, what we've got is we've got an x minus 3 on top and an x minus 3 on the bottom. So what we're left with is we're simply left with x times 2, which is 2x. Same idea in this next term. We have an x in the bottom of the fraction. We have an x on top. They cancel out, and we're left with, I'm going to write the 1 out front, and in fact you don't even really need to write it, but I don't want to confuse you. Equals, over here, again, look and see. Do we have anything that we can cancel out? And we have an x minus 3 and an x minus 3, and what we're left with is we're left with x times x minus 1. So now it's much better to solve without all those fractions, and we can simplify a little bit. We get 2x distributing plus x minus 3 distributing x squared minus x. So now what we want to do is we want to move everything to the same side of the equation. And in fact, I'm going to move everything to the right because the x squared term is positive. So, in fact, actually, let's combine like terms even before we get there here. 2x plus 1x is 3x minus 3 equals x squared minus x. And then moving to the left here, we can subtract 3x from both sides. And we get negative 3 equals x squared minus 4x. Remember, there was a 1 in front of that x. We can add 3 to both sides here. And we get 0 equals x squared minus 4x plus 3. And nicer when you can see there that I've moved everything over to the right side. We ended up with that x squared minus 4x plus 3 because we want to factor that expression. So 1 times 3 is 3, and the only factors of 3 are 1 and 3, but luckily enough they will combine to be 4. In fact, they will combine to be negative 4 if we make each of those negative. So we're splitting the middle. We get 0 equals x squared minus 1x minus 3x plus 3. Again, we split negative 4x into negative 1x minus 3x. And here's a group and here's a group. Greatest common factor in the first group is an x. And we're left with x minus 1. Greatest common factor in the next group is negative 3. Negative 3x divided by negative 3 is x. Positive 3 divided by negative 3 is negative 1. And what we see here is that from each group we have an x minus 1. And then we're left with an x minus 3. And finally, what we can do is we can take each of those factors and we can set them equal to 0. So we can add 1 to both sides, get x equals 1. We can add 3 to both sides, we get x equals 3. But even though we don't have admentum in front of us here, what the question said is, it says the equation has what we've got, something valid solutions and something extraneous solutions. What we really need to do is we need to go back into the original equation and we need to decide, will we have an extraneous solution? So your previous lesson was looking to see when is the denominator 0. So if we put 1 back in here, 1 minus 3 is negative 2, not 0. If we put 1 in there, and finally 1 minus 3 is negative 2, 1 is a valid solution. If we take 3, well, 3 minus 3, we're putting the value of 3 back in the equation for x. 3 minus 3 is 0. Our denominator is not allowed to be 0. So when we go back there, this one, by the way, is extraneous. So when we go back here, what we can say is that we have one valid solution and one extraneous solution.